going in the right direction for Team Trump. And I understand that Trump's defenders would like to say they're oversampling Democrats and all that. Look, it's across the board. I mean, he's fallen in left-leaning polls. He's fallen in right-leaning polls. The Cook Political Report takes the best polls and tries to make projections based on its best data. And they'll do that if it's good for Trump, just like they've been doing for Trump over the past few months, or if it's good for Kamala. And right now, it's good for her. Very good. This is reality. And the Trump team needs to deal with reality if it wants to win. There is zero purpose served in pretending that reality is other than what it is. There's 3 months to go. So there's time to adjust and make different choices. But I don't understand the people who are like, it's not happening. It's not. Oh, all right. If that's going to be your strategy, good luck. Here's what Cook is showing. It's a swing state project survey from May. Overall, in May, or it's a swing state project survey. In May, it showed that Trump overall led Biden by 3 points. Today, overall, Trump is behind Harris by 1 point. All right, so it's been a 4-point swing in her favor. And listen to these swings state to state. In Arizona, there's been a 5-point swing in the Democrats' favor. Trump was up 3. Now Harris is up 2, 48-46. Georgia, they're tied. Trump was up 3, so it's a 3-point swing. Michigan, Harris is up 3. That's a 5-point swing because Trump had been up 2. Nevada, Trump is up 3, but he was up 9. So that's a 6-point swing in favor of the Democrats, but still Trump up a bit. North Carolina, Harris up 1. Trump was up 7. That's an 8-point swing in the Democrats' favor. And if you don't believe me, Donald Trump is going to North Carolina and holding a rally either tonight or tomorrow. And they go where they know there's work to be done. I mean, he wouldn't be going there. He's not going to Oklahoma. He's going there because he's seeing what we're seeing. That's good he's going there. Pennsylvania, Harris up 1. Trump had been up 3. So it's a 4-point swing. Wisconsin, Harris is up 3. Trump and Biden had been tied. Why? Cook Political Report says Harris's success in consolidating the Democratic base, which had been unenthused about Joe Biden, increased support among independent voters. 56% say she represents a chance to turn the page on the Trump-Biden era. Her favorability rating has gone up considerably. It has improved by 13 points. We all know why. The issues that she still is laboring under, she is seen as too liberal to govern, according to 53%. 49% say she's too unserious a person to govern this country effectively. And the problems for Trump, 59% of the battleground state voters are concerned he's too focused on personal retribution. 57% think he is too erratic and out of control to govern effectively.
Yeah.
My commentary for the day. Can we just put that down? And the transcript person can just write down long sigh.
Exhale. Megyn exhales.
If Trump spends more time.
Wow. All I can say is, really, Megyn? Really? Long collective sigh? And the whole panel. Guffaw. Did you even hear the last bit? So all these polls now, and it's the Cook Political Report, one of the worst leftist, liberal leaning polls. I know she said when it was going for Trump, they were still getting something from May. And Cook Political Report, they take all the data, D-A-T-A, the data, and they use their brains and their minds and their political expertise to form a valued opinion, which is fair and balanced. Really? That's what the Cook Political Report is doing? So the shift in numbers, I just want everyone to listen. I'm going to go back over. Just listen to when they ask the questions, some of what they call the subtabs, and they ask those two questions about Kamala Harris. She was like at 53%, at 49%, that they didn't think that she could handle it, that she didn't think she had the temperament or the thing to handle the economy. So 50% no, but all of a sudden, she's surging in these things. Let's list those comments one more time just so we understand where it's coming from. Megyn. Oh my goodness. I love you, sweetheart. I mean, you know what? I watch you when you were on Fox News. And when you went over to the other side, the dark side on NBC, I couldn't find you. I mean, come on now. Hey, listen, I would have taken the money too. No, I don't know. Got your millions. You went there for a couple of seconds. And then you were gone. And now you're making a comeback. Good for you. That's what America's all about. But you sort of went, I don't know if you were really right all the time, but sort of right on the right side. And then you sort of went deep dive left because you had to be in that environment, right? And then it seemed that you were coming around again. So I'm just wondering, you did have Rasmussen Reports, Mark Mitchell on. And we're going to play a clip from there too to counteract this narrative that you guys are constantly doing about these polls. Why don't you get the people on who don't have their strings being controlled by the puppeteers on Wall Street and in the Washington Beltway? Why don't we do that? In fact, you know what? Let's go to Mark and see what Mark has to say about what's happening in the polling industry right now. That's who you should be listening to. And listen, I'm not saying not look at the other polls, but to report them as if this is the gospel, whatever. Take a look at what Rasmussen Reports has done over the last 20 years. At least the last 2 or 3 presidents, they've been pretty much spot on, where others have been completely not even close. Let's listen to Mark and Rasmussen. Then we'll come back to Megyn and her panel. We're going to do that with cut number 17 right now.
Aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the pollsters who can directly look you in the eyes and tell you we are not liars. We are not paid by anybody to shape narratives in this country. And in fact, if we are not accurate, our business ceases to exist. And that's why I think you should follow us and subscribe and listen to what we have to say about the 2024 election. And that is this: Trump is still winning comfortably in the national race, although maybe slightly less far ahead than he was just a month and a half ago. And that's what we're going to be covering today, an in-depth look at the crosstabs of our latest weekly 2024 election matchup numbers. But before we do, if you think all of the sudden that this race is running away from Trump, then you're probably the victim of an info op, one that unfortunately seems to have been very successful on many people. So let's talk a little bit more about that. This is the Real Clear Politics polling aggregate, and you should trust these people because they try and maintain standards in the polls that they put into the aggregate. And as you can see, like our polling showed, Trump was beating Biden pretty much at every point in time, going all the way back to October 2023. Now, I will say the accuracy of polls is a little bit looser this far out, October, November, December, January, from an election. And our polls did show in most cases Trump winning from 5 to 10 points. What I will say is that many mainstream polling organizations had a similar Trump lead as we did. So a lot of this time, Joe Biden had a really bad January. A lot of this time, Trump was winning. But if you see here around sort of the March time period, this is where there was a pretty big media push to paint Joe Biden as a success after his State of the Union speech. But you can see that was also pretty unsuccessful. There's probably a bunch of reasons why, not least of which is issues with his health and mental capacity. But he kind of stuck to this Trump +1 to 1.5 range until all of a sudden the debate happened. And it's almost like the entire polling industry turned on Joe Biden at once. But what I really want to show you is by going to the 3-month scale, this period here, Donald Trump was beating Joe Biden by 3 to 3.5 points. On July 15th, we put out a large 2,500 result likely voter national poll that had Trump +3, the exact same number as the aggregate. And that's because other pollsters, other corporate pollsters in the aggregate also showed that Trump was winning. Now think back to all of the polling we've put out in the last couple of years. In not one single poll has Kamala Harris been more likable than Joe Biden, done better in a matchup than Joe Biden, or even was perceived to be more competent than Joe Biden. So in our opinion, if you switch the candidates, I would expect to see something like a Trump +3 or 4 lead. And what I have to tell you today is that Trump is winning the race right now by 3 to 4 points, and we're going to get into that. But what is happening now, if we go to the Trump plus Harris numbers, is that the aggregate has swung 4 points left. There is a sea of blue here where there was not one in the Trump versus Biden races. And that makes absolutely no sense to us because, again, Kamala Harris is a worse candidate than Joe Biden. Joe Biden sailed to a presidency based on a massive history of public service and perceived competence. So why did this happen? Well, I can tell you our numbers here are still holding up the aggregate. There's a few other pollsters showing Trump winning. But in my opinion, the real issue is this. All of the sudden, a week after Kamala Harris got anointed, the polling industry got super uninterested in figuring out the state of the race. Everybody tripped all over themselves to poll between July 21st, when she was selected, and August 4th. There were a ton of polls and about as many polls as there were through most of June and July. We're talking about, 8 to 13, 14 polls. Now, all of a sudden, and I will say that this chart was produced on the 14th. There have been another poll or two. But basically, in the last 2 weeks here, week and a half, there's been like 3 or 4 non-Rasmussen reports, national general election polls. It's almost.
So you see that what Mark was talking about? In the last 15 days, nothing. Crickets. Whereas, Rasmussen is polling every single day. He got a sample size north of 1,000 of likely voters. And they're giving you the crosstabs. They're giving you the inside. They're giving you this, basically how the sausage is made in the polling industry. And as he said, if you think that Trump is behind in the swing states or in the national polls, then they have done an absolutely unbelievable psyop job, an info job. The wrong kind of info job on people in the media, just like Megyn and so many others that are out there. And a pollster, see these other pollsters that are out there, they have huge monetary backings. If the New York Times Siena poll is wrong, you think anybody gives a crap? You think they give a crap? No, they'll just say, you know what, hey, we were wrong, or they'll make up some excuse. But they're never going to go out of business. Every year, every 4 years, every 2 years, we go through the same crapola over and over and over again. But then the people or the pollsters that have to do it day in and day out and have to put their money where their mouth is, like Rasmussen, who's controlling their strings? Who's controlling their, who's the puppeteer and who's pulling the strings on them? Nobody. They have to make sure, otherwise they are completely out of business. Anyways, folks, let's continue and see what Megyn and the panelists, how they're going to, come to grips with this news that Trump is behind. And there's so much trouble going on in this campaign. He's going to North Carolina, for God's sakes, because he's behind. And we know they go where the trouble is. Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right, let's see.
About depictions of the crowd size at Kamala Harris rallies. That's really going to seal the deal for him.
That's going to turn
That's
it.
going to get the
unsmart.
state voters.
So unsmart.
Not just that,
the
but
listening
he's
audience,
still-
he's claiming that the big crowds outside of her airplane and elsewhere are AI generated, and there's just no proof of that. I mean, like, there was a conspiracy theory somebody started. There were all these other pictures from people who were actually there.
You know what? Crowd size again. And you know what? So what if he talks about it? It is something that's, being played. It puts the other people on the defensive. They throw so much crap and stuff on the wall against Trump. They might as well just go ahead and, shovel a little bit of it back. Maybe there's a kernel of truth to it. Maybe there isn't. But it certainly is making you guys talk about it, isn't it? Oh, it's so stupid. It's so unsmart. Nobody wants to listen. No, you guys don't want to listen to it, but we do. The MAGA crowd does. Half the time he's up there joking around, saying things to make people like you talk about it, and on the other side as well. And the other half of the time, he is talking about policy. He is honing it down there. You wanted 150% just on the issues? You gotta have some other stuff inside there as well.
There that showed the huge, are they all in on it? Like everyone who showed up got an AI filter that they put? What? Okay, so stupid. Just focus on the damn border. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
He's
Yes!
been standing out pretty, obviously, over the last couple of weeks. We have talked about previously together about how there's been whole stretches where his campaign has been disciplined and smart, including by keeping him away from cameras and stuff when that was a useful thing to do. And it just hasn't been that the last couple of weeks. And he's actually reminding people of the reasons why he so far has never shown he's able to get even 47% of the popular vote in this country, when he's still on about stop the steal and, millions of illegal immigrants voting and things that he's been saying for a real.
In the Rasmussen polls and some others, he's at 49% approval. In some places, he's at 50%. What the hell are you talking about?
Really long time, but people kind of forget about. But he's playing those greatest hits in addition to ones that actually might have a chance of persuading swing state voters. There's an X factor that I want us to consider a little bit, which is that Robert Kennedy Jr. is starting to be disqualified from ballots. It started in New York, which doesn't really matter as an individual state, but the New York case
focused here on a couple of issues. I mean, when you see these numbers, they're kind of a predictable bump in some ways, and then other ways you're just completely shocked by them, particularly the poll that shows it even close with Kamala Harris on the economy. I mean, she's up ridiculous. A point or so in some of these.
That's an outlier. It was a Financial Times poll, but it is obviously an outlier. But it's amazing that it even got generated.
It's an outlier. It's just amazing. It's just amazing that it got generated, says Megyn Kelly, MK. It's just amazing it got generated, that outlier that shows that she's ahead on Trump on the economy. And you wonder why these polls are being thrown out there. I'm telling you what, folks, 90% of these polls that are coming from New York Times Siena, from Ipsos Opsos, from, these colleges, they are a bunch of freaking lies. All they have to do is manipulate the numbers 3 or 4 points, not a lot. Not a lot. And don't you guys understand that at all? That's what's happening. That's why, you don't take polls that where the purse strings and the money is at. And are being controlled by the corporate interests, controlled by the establishment, controlled by the media, controlled by the universities and academia. If I wanted to, I could issue a poll, commission one, pay for one, and it comes back. I don't throw any crosstabs out. I really don't talk about any of the questions, just to put in a couple here or there as to what we did for. And I find out that the numbers showed that, guess what? I'm just saying that Trump's ahead by 1, or he's ahead by 2. But I don't want that. So what do? Who's going to know if I change the damn numbers? And say that, Kamala in Wisconsin is now pulled ahead by 2. There was a poll out there that showed she was up by 11 in Michigan a week ago. 11 points, folks. 11. Now, Rasmussen is showing that Trump is up by 5 in Georgia. 4-5 in Georgia right now. There was a poll taken showing that by somebody else, saying that in Florida, Trump's up by 3 or 4. Explain that to me. Explain that he's only up by 5 in Georgia, but he's up by 3 in Florida after everything that's happened to make Florida absolutely ruby red. It doesn't make sense, folks. But when you rely on these like Cook or Ipsos Apsos or Axios, and I know I'm making fun of some of these names, I couldn't give a crap. But, Megyn, can't believe it was generated. Just put it out there anyways. Amazing, folks. Amazing.
It's an outlier that there shouldn't be an outlier poll on this issue. There's no way, no matter how you frame the question, should she be even within 5 points. But
fights the data, that's why.
And this is a very simple thing. I mean, when Donald Trump was disciplined during that debate, it was, amazingly beneficial to him in the short term. It was actually worse for him in the long term because Joe Biden.
I'm going to jump out of my chair over here if these guys use a word about him not being freaking disciplined. I hate that word. He has to be disciplined. He has to be on point every single second of the day. Even if he goes to take a dump on the crapper, he better be disciplined. He better not be moving around. He better just focus and dump it. These guys are absolutely nuts with their freaking disciplined messaging all the time. That's why these are elitist journalists. They just can't get that little bit of, Trump, whatever it is that they don't like about him, just out of their system completely. They still have like 1 or 2 or 3% of the Trump derangement syndrome virus still coursing through their veins.
And dropped out, and now the Democratic nominee is competitive. But that kind of discipline, when you do, he's going to North Carolina because of those numbers. He's going to have a rally. I think the rally model is pretty played out at this point. You're talking committed Trump people. I have been to so many of them, and I'll tell you what happens every time I go. I laugh my ass off.
That's right. LMAO.
Really in his, I tell people to go and look up what he said about John Tester recently, which I was like weeping over because it was so funny. But that's not what the party needs right now.
Yes,
what
it
is.
Is
him to be very disciplined on a couple of issues. I think you or Matt said,
it's bonding with the people. It's bonding with MAGA. It's an event. Families go together. They stay there for a couple of days waiting in line, tenting, sleeping in their cars, driving 8, 10, 12, 15 hours, taking a couple of days off. It's an event in people's lives. They want to go to them. Oh, I don't think that's the model anymore. No, not at all. And Megyn goes, I agree.
Economy and immigration. If you stick on immigration, hammer, 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 not on crowd sizes. And keep in mind that when Donald Trump won in 2016, when he won, he was disputing the crowd size during the inauguration. It's this constant obsession with this stuff. It makes him look small, and it's something that we don't need. Also true, and one final comment on this, I've talked to a lot of Republicans that I know who are voting for Trump. And I think that there's a lot of desire amongst them, too, to turn the page on the Biden-Trump era. And they would love to see the back end of it because there's just too many unforced errors.
With
There's not
her?
enough discipline. No, with Trump. They're like, they'll vote for him, but they're just tired of all of this and want a little more discipline in the party. So like, they're not going to vote for her. But I think that there is an overall feeling, if that's infecting people that I know who are actually MAGA types and that will vote for him, I mean, I just imagine what it's like for the rest of the country.
It's not MAGA types, you moron. It's elitists like you that still have a 3 or 4 or 5% Trump derangement syndrome virus still coursing through your veins, as I said before. It's not for the MAGA people. They don't care. They're not the ones that are up there, okay, sipping their tea with their pinkies extended out. Eating with 6 forks and 5 knives and 10 spoons. That's not with them. It's the people that you hang around with in Washington, D.C. and other places in your inner circle that are basically saying, yeah, I'll vote for Trump. My gotta vote for Trump, just because I hate the guy a little bit more, but you know what? I gotta vote. I'll vote for him, but I'm gonna clench my anus while I do it, okay? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clench that, like I'm gonna clench it. Put a lump of coal in there and make a diamond out of it. But I'll vote for Trump this time. But after this time, that's it. We're gonna turn the page.
I was like, I just think, look, Trump is who he is. And I've said yesterday, he's too rambly. He's not like hitting the points to where it's like digestible. And the people at home know, like China, the wall, the way he did in 16. That he was getting away with that when he was across from Joe Biden. It was just like, well, look at the alternative. Now, the moment requires message discipline. It requires it. And not for nothing, but Trump's freedom likely requires it because these lunatics are still determined to put him in jail.
Let him.
Is going to have a hearing on whether the immunity ruling by the Supreme Court saves Trump from actually receiving a penalty or seeing that conviction through in New York. But this guy, he might say it doesn't save Trump. And on September 18th, he's supposed to sentence the guy. Jack Smith could still find a way to refile those J6 charges if Trump doesn't win. And I don't trust these Democrats to abandon their charges against Trump if Kamala Harris wins. I think they really want Trump in jail. I don't think it will be enough for them that Trump loses. So in any event, there are all sorts of reasons why Trump really needs to get serious about listening to the very smart advisors around him when it comes to
the very smart advisors. He's on message. And, I hope they sentence him. That would be perfect. You want to see him go up even more in the polls? And not only that, take him to jail. Put him in jail. You want to see the election? You want to see him win by 10, 15, 20 points? Do it. Do it. I dare you. I double dare you. I triple freaking dare you to do it. These guys haven't learned a damn thing. That would be absolutely extraordinary. That would be amazing to do that. They couldn't ask for better coverage. They couldn't ask for a better news cycle. They couldn't ask for anything better than for him to be sentenced and for him to be going to jail, folks. Oh, my God. You want to talk about a landslide? That's exactly what would happen. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. If you haven't done so already, check out our other videos above and below. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.